and welcome to Lapse of Time. I'm your host, TL. Today, we have a fantastic lineup of special guests: Jackie, Quintá, Shanice, Zay, and Kayla. We'll be discussing the crucial topic of guarding a child's innocence in today's modern world. Stay tuned for an insightful and thought-provoking conversation. Now, starting off with Miss Jackie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm well. You want to start off by letting us know your background?
I come with 23 years in the medical field and about 18 years of educational experience, and probably about 18 in the social service sector as well.
All right. Thank you so much for that. It's amazing. Quintá, do you want to go ahead and give a little background?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Been in the school district for about 11 years and in the home health for about 4 years. I began in the district in the kitchen and then worked my way up to bus aide dealing with special needs and disabled children. Later on, I went into in-house dealing with behavioral kids in the school and currently an office specialist. I work in the discipline office and I also am a home health aide for my elderly grandmother.
All right. Awesome. That's amazing. And Shanice, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people? How you doing today?
I am doing well, thank you. How are yourself?
I'm good.
Alrighty. My background is mainly in elementary education with the school district. I've been doing it for the past almost 10 years. I started off as a reading tutor, then I became a literacy and language strategist for English as a second language students and also students that were below grade level. I am now a licensed elementary teacher.
All right. Awesome. That's amazing. Zay, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people? How you doing on today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm all right.
All right. I'm a program assistant for the county currently, but I've been there for at least 13 years now. I'm a jack of all trades in the county. I also coach middle school and basketball, high school team. I'm at the county as well. And then now I'm a BST worker, which means basic skills trainer, working with youth and young adults with mental and behavioral health challenges.
All right. Thank you. That's amazing. For our last panelist, Kayla, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? How are you doing on today?
I'm doing well. I'm a healthcare administrator at an integrated mental and behavioral health clinic. I provide administrative support and then oversight for the clinic and providers. I provide direct care to parents and children who are affected by the criminal justice and child welfare systems.
All right. I like that everybody here is educators and been in the school field for a long time. So that just starts us off with our first question. What does innocence mean to you all? Starting with you, Jackie.
Innocence, it's just, it's one of those words you hear and you just think of pure thoughts, right? It's something that's innocent. It's not tainted. Mud has gotten into it. I didn't do it. It's not me. That's not who I am. So when I hear the word innocence, that's the first thing I think of. But it's also just one of those things where it's just the absence of those immoral things and those nasty values that the world introduce us to and people introduce us to. So no betrayal, no violence, that good stuff there. So when I hear the word innocence, that's what it means to me.
Okay, I like that. Quintá, what does innocence mean to you? Working in the field that you have worked in for so long, being that you've been around a lot of kids and you've seen a lot of things, especially in the behavior field.
Yeah, so for me, same as what Jackie was saying, also to me, innocence is just being free of any guilt or corruption. It's the pureness of the being. No blame, no tarnish, no blemish, being free of all of that.
Okay, I like that. Shanice?
Yes, adding to what the other two panelists have previously said, innocence to me means not tainted in a way that they're not affected with a bad quality. It's also a moral character to where it's not that they don't know about bad, but they choose to do what they feel is the right thing.
Okay, I like that. Zay, how would you define innocence, being in the field that you are?
Basically, like what everybody else said, it just means free from guilt, free from, they're not corrupted. They don't even know what it means. They haven't even touched the reality of life yet. That's what that means to me.
Okay, I like that. Kayla, how would you define that?
I think when I hear innocence, I think of being pure or not yet corrupted by the world systems or societal expectations that are placed on your life.
Okay. Yeah, I like how you said that as far as the societal expectations. That just brings me to my next question then of where do you think innocence starts in a child's lives? And
Not being a parent, I'm sure my response will be a little different from the rest of the panelists who are parents. I'm going to say, of course, and I will always say in a picture perfect world, it starts at home. I'm probably the oldest out of everybody other panelists. And, growing up, we were taught, you grow up, you meet a man or woman, you have kids, you stay together, you bring your kids up and the world is all perfect, right? And then somehow Eve bit the apple and everything changed, right?
Mhm.
So she ate off the tree she wasn't supposed to. The whole world changed. So we got to see things, right?
Mhm.
So that's where we lost our innocence at. And but I'm gonna make sure if I see her, I'm gonna have some words with her when I see her. Like, we got some stuff to talk about, right? But
Show you right.
right. But it starts at home. But I'm a village person. I believe that it takes a village to raise a kid because it took a village to raise me. And
Mhm.
as old as I am, as young as I think I am, it still takes a village to raise me. So it starts out right for the parents. But as an educator, it starts from the time I start working with your kid to the time you pick them up from me. So I'm going to say on a case by case basis for panelist number 3, on a case by case basis, we will say it depends on the situation of the kid, the story of the kid, the environment of the kid, because a foster kid, is one that came from the foster system. I had no home life. And then when I ran away, I really didn't have a home life because I was like, these people crazy. I'm out of here. So the streets raised me at that point. My instincts raised me, and I ain't know nothing. That's the blind leading the blind. So I wanted to start at home. I love to see parents that instill in their kids good and bad, right and wrong. But I also just being reminded that parenting don't always come with a book either. So it's still learning as you go. And I think taking from that, forgive me because I will go all around the world, but I'm going to land back home. It's an everyday learning process. And some people can master it and some people can't. So it goes back to your village and your resources. Always tap into them. If the parent and the educator can work together to produce that, then let's do that. But if not, I love that it was said that if an instructor or a school changed the curriculum, I want to know. It impresses me when a parent is that involved into their child's education because the brain is important. I tell people it is the computer of the body, and what we put in it determines how we act. What we see determines the results that we give to the world. So it's a joint effort in the village, but it should start at home. But if I get your kid and you're a bad parent, it's going to start with me, if that makes sense.
I like that. That was beautiful. And I can definitely agree on everything you just said. Yeah. I could think back and think about that was my favorite teacher that helped in some way, shape, or form. Who else would like to go ahead and answer that question?
Yeah, so for me, I agree with everything that Jackie said. I believe that education of innocence starts at home for those who do have that home life. It starts at home. I believe it starts from the time a child is born. When a child is born, you begin to teach and educate. That's how they learn to crawl. That's how they learn their first step. They learn their first words. So that education of innocence truly starts from the time a child is born. Even in the womb, I used to have my babies listening to, alphabets, music and stuff like that. So teaching of innocence, it starts at home. And then as an educator, you continue that in the schoolhouse or whatever job you have, really, you can always teach, you can always nurture the innocence of someone, teaching them right from wrong. So for me, that's where I stand.
I like how you pointed out as far as when the child is in the belly, that's where it starts. Because science believes that a child's brain, once it's developed, once the ears are developed, they can hear things. So that just goes back to what Jackie said as far as the brain. Whatever you feed it when you start it off in the womb. Zay?
I'm I believe, and so this wasn't on the specific question, but I believe it starts at home and school. I believe it starts in the community. As myself growing up in my community, I had the community center where I went to pretty much every day. I had a place called Club Christ where I went to every day. And my parents were at work. But they still had the time out to take to nurture me, to equip me with things. But then also it started at church where like all of my innocence, like I said, in the community, it was the community that gave me my sense of innocence where, yes, I have to keep it. And I'm not going to go all the way into that just yet, but I feel like it starts in the community at home and in school and all because everybody had a part to play in my life. So that's
I like that. It just goes back to what Jackie said as far as the village. Kayla?
Yeah, I had to take what I was going to say. While education starts at home, a kid's ability to maintain their innocence depends largely on what they're exposed to. But if their innocence isn't able to be preserved at home, where there's things like the child welfare system or criminal justice or just, lifing, I agree with Jackie that it goes back to the village and the school and the people that you have, the resources that you can pour into in order to foster their innocence in a way that maybe they couldn't get at home.
Okay, right back to the village. Shanice?
In my opinion, innocence starts at home, as others have already said. As an educator, I can try to further advise or give advice to a child through things like social emotional learning and the lessons that we give on characteristics of innocence, such as always finding or looking for the good in people or the good in life, or being slow to judge and quick to forgive. In the day, it's ultimately up to the parent or the guardian to instill and to continue the education of that child and to nurture their innocence.
Okay, absolutely. I like how you guys are, going back to the village and the school systems and stuff like that. That makes me think of that movie. I can't remember the name, but he was the principal and he came up there and the kids hated him at first, but at the end of the movie. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's
we
my
all
movie.
know it. You did not.
I couldn't remember the name, but I've
But
seen
it's your movie. Okay.
It's a good movie.
Fair is
right there.
Come on, boy. Yeah, that's what that takes me back to as far as what Jackie stated, as far as it's starting in the school. If they're not around that environment, then it has to start in the school place. And at the end of that movie, we all know what happened, like that just takes me to our next question. As far as the influence that he had on that school, we have a lot of influence going on right now as far as social media and amongst other things, but social media seems to be the big one that's taken us by storm as parents, as educators. I see a lot of kids who are on TikTok. How much influence do you guys think social media has on a child or people in general?
I think social media has a lot of influence on a lot of things. I mean, I go shopping a lot because of what's on social media. That's my downfall. But I'm not in a place where if somebody do a twerk video, I got a twerk challenge with it. I'm not into all of that, right? But if somebody do something that's going to empower my mind, my soul, then I'll challenge you with that all day. So it depends on the person, what you want. Very well, good point made. It depends on the person. However, sometimes because of the mind, and I'm studying the brain right now, so I'm so fascinated by it. The mind, because of the way that it is designed, we hit some highs and the lows. Our emotions is in the front of our brain, right? So we hit some highs and some lows. And I think most of us can probably relate when we're in a place or when we're in a situation, let's say we're in a bad mood, right? And somebody comes up and they say some negative, derogatory things to us, that don't make us feel better, right? It helps push us to where we are already trying not to go to. We know where we're trying to go to. We try not to and just pushing me there. But then if we're in a good mood and somebody come and they tell them, girl, you got this, you doing good, that just builds you up even more so, right? I take that to social media because sometimes, and you would think, common sense, which isn't common anymore, would tell us if I'm a crackhead and I want to stay off drugs, why would I go to the crack house, right? If I'm alcoholic trying to recover, don't go to the liquor store. But all I have to do is pick up my phone and scroll, and it's right there. So, and I said that because I just thought about, we had an incident at work where one of my colleagues' child killed himself and sent a text before he did it. And it was such a sad thing. And they didn't know nothing was wrong with him, right? Mom has a PhD. Dad has a master's. He was running the physical therapy program. Child, they said, seemed like he was okay. And then so as he started to share a little bit last week, some things influenced the fact of him taking his own life. So we can be as strong as we want. We can think we are, but if we don't have resources, if we don't have that strong connection with our higher power, if we don't have that strong foundation of a good parenting, a good home, anything can influence us at that point. So social media shouldn't, but it does. The world around does. Trump influenced people just by him standing on TV talking,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's just, this the world we live in. I say trust Jesus. But,
Amen.
At the end of the day, that's my take on that.
Yeah, it's definitely not so common no more, I guess, unless the Lord is giving it. So anybody else want to, right. So anybody else want to take that question and answer it?
Yeah, so for me, social media has as much influence as you allow it to have. The more you take in, the more you're influenced. It's like that saying, you are what you eat. The things we consume become learned to us. So they become routine. They become habits. So I believe social media does have as much influence on a child as you allow it to have. It goes with monitoring everything that they intake, and not the social media, but any media for that matter. Anything a child takes in, books, the things they watch on TV, just any of that. People around them who you allow around in your atmosphere, everything has an influence, but as it only has as much influence as you allow it to have on you.
I like that. Zay, what would you have to say about that?
I was listening to everybody and listening to their take on it, and I basically believe what everybody said. It does depend on what you allow to be taken in. It does depend on what you allow yourself to see. Like, I could literally be walking down the street and I hear somebody else playing a song, right? And I'm not singing the song or whatever, but then like the next day it's in my mind and I'm like, why is this song in my mind? I didn't even play it, but I just heard a snippet of it when the car was passing by, right? So I do believe that what you allow yourself to intake is that's the reason why social media is so big. But then also, this is how some people this is their life, right? This is big to them. If they don't have Wi-Fi, if they don't have a phone, they don't have a laptop, that is detrimental to them. Right.
Right.
So I believe that it has a big influence on our lives. Right. It's the good and the bad. It's cyberbullying and giving somebody positive words. Like, you can get good and bad in anything. But I do believe social media definitely impacted our lives all the way. So that's what I believe.
I like how you put that as far as it being somebody's job and, their livelihood, to just narrow down to who you letting influence you in that space, because they can be good influencers and bad influencers. I've seen some good ones. I've seen some bad ones.
So it also brings, like, say we watching TikTok, right? You see a food channel, right? And you see like they made some breaded pasta, like they put the chicken on there and all this other stuff, and then it starts to influence your taste ability, where you like, oh, I gotta try that. I gotta try that because that looks good. So just from that, right, I can tell that it influences us, because I look at it and I'll be like, I need to go get these recipes right now. So so I just
make you hungry.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. All right, Shanice.
So in regards to a child's innocence, I think social media has as much influence on them as is allowed. So like the more or the less the exposure, the more or the less the influence. So monitoring a child's social media intake as far as what and for how long they're watching something, I think impacts their influence. And so it kind of goes back to how innocence starts at home. Because like a lot of people are familiar with the saying, like, if they jump off a bridge, are you going to jump off a bridge too? So although you may be exposed to certain content or certain things, it's up to a parent or a guardian to inform them of what is right and what is wrong and to protect their innocence. And so as they grow up, they can make the proper decisions on, no, that's not it. I shouldn't be influenced by this, or I should be influenced by this.
Gotcha. So no monkey see, monkey do on this side of the street, right?
I am copycat number 2.
Right. No
What
copycat.
if that breeze got water under it? You gonna might jump. I don't know.
And you're a good
No.
swimmer.
I can't swim, so I'm not jumping.
I was about to say that.
I'm definitely not a good
That's
swimmer.
a hard impact.
But
I never said how deep the bridge, how far up the bridge was.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about perspective, I guess.
Perspective.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing that I wanted to add to that. Also, we can't control, even you guys who have children, you can't control the decisions that they're going to make, right? You can only just show them. But also, I like the part how I've seen some teach their kid that, okay, I'm not going to yell at you because you did what you did, but now you see the consequences. So if you make this choice, I'm not going to tell you not to make this choice, but I'm going to tell you this could happen, and that could happen. So now you have all the choices you need or the consequences that might happen. So now I will hope that you will make the wise choice, but if you don't, just be prepared for the consequences that's going to come from that.
Absolutely.
Ooh, Jackie, let me piggyback. See, in regards to like a social media and with YouTube, right? So my kid likes to watch the kids' YouTube. And so a lot of the stuff on the kids' YouTube, she will try to come back and do. And so I tell her, that's not what we do here. So like you may see them do that, but that's not what I'm teaching you to do.
Right.
So yes, you go ahead, watch it, but don't let it influence your character because that's not what I'm teaching you how to be. So I might block it. I don't know how she'd be unblocking stuff, but so you might block some of the influence so that way it'll lessen the influence. But yes, I just want to piggyback off of what you said.
Kayla.
Yeah, it's been important for me to understand my kid is going to be her own kid. So eventually she's going to grow up and think for herself or make her own decisions. As far as social media is concerned, our minds aren't made to consume information 24/7. We're meant to be outside and connected with other people and in the sun, like not behind a screen. And so with the prevalence of social media or YouTube or chat forums or gaming or things like that, like we're no longer encouraged to think for ourselves. It's kind of like someone is giving me information, someone is giving me news, someone is giving me their opinion. And so it's influencing the way in which we live our lives or perceive the world to be versus being encouraged to do our own research, to create our own thoughts, to think for ourselves. And so it's been important for me that if I'm on social media, that I'm following people who not necessarily align with my views, because I think that it's important for you to understand that the world is not a think tank and, not everybody thinks the same way that I do.
Exactly.
But understanding that if I'm being influenced negatively through whatever they're saying, then like it's okay to unfollow them or unplug. And I think that's something that I've worked hard with like my families on and my teenagers on, especially, is like giving them the freedom and permission to unfollow, to unplug, or to delete social media off of their phones, or, disconnect from the expectation that you're only acceptable in society if you're engaged in TikTok or Instagram, or if you have X amount of followers. Like their value doesn't come from the likes or follows that they have, but just through their inherent worth. Kids are influenced by their parents' decisions. So whether it's social media or alcohol or, whatever the decision is, my kid would be impacted by that. If I don't drink, but I'm on social media 12 hours a day, then that becomes a normal, or that becomes their baseline expectation for what you should do. It just goes back to teaching what I believe is best and why, and then encouraging her or allowing her to ask questions and be curious. So often growing up, it's just like, this is the answer because I said so. But then that doesn't encourage me to create like a thought process for myself or to create a value system or a structure that I believe. If I say, I don't want you watching this because, or here are the consequences that could come from your behavior, it's important to me that they're able to ask questions and get an understanding so that they can make an informed decision the next time that they go log on to YouTube or to go play with friends or whatever. How have I explained the consequences of that? And then not reprimanding them per se if they make a choice that's different than mine, but saying like, these are the consequences of the decision that you made, even though I told you that that could have happened.
Right. And as far as because I told you so, yeah, that definitely reigned in our household. By and by, like the old folks say, you'll get it when you get older. So, yeah, it's definitely something I'm learning as a parent. Don't say because I told you so, like, because it doesn't really help them.
I think someone said something like, kids are humans too. If I don't want my boss saying like, do this because I told you so, like, I want to understand so that I can learn and do better in the future.
Right.
You want to acknowledge that like she's a human and has her own thought processes and that her life or her adult life will be impacted by her childhood. And so who do I have influencing her? What is she exposed to? And what information am I providing her to trust that she's smart enough? I think we undermine the intelligence of kids a lot, where kids are able to take on or understand a lot more than we give them credit for. And so helping them to hone in that knowledge and intelligence in a productive and healthy manner, I think is important.
Absolutely. As far as work goes, Kayla said she wouldn't want her boss at work to tell her, do this because I told you so. That just gets me to our next question of work and balancing work and family life. And not just for parents, but for educators as well. Like, how can we, as parents, as educators, as a village, balance our work demands as well as the quality time with our children? Because we see that in this day and age and in America, we're not valued as much as educators, as parents, as a village to be able to take time off or spend time with our kids versus every other country has maternity leave for moms and dads for up to 3 years.
Well, for me, as a parent, I work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's a battle, but ultimately you have to make that time, not only outside of work, but even during my work day. You have 30-minute breaks, you have 15-minute breaks. So just taking time out to call my kid, check up on them, see how their day is going, how they're doing, just seeing where they're at, what's going on with them. So I believe making time and also setting personal time, even if it's just them helping with dinner around the house, watching a movie or a show with them, letting your child know that you're present no matter what. I believe that plays a big part in how they're influenced, because working in the school, I see a lot of kids that don't have present parent. Their parents are constantly working or they're not at home. The kids are raising younger siblings or they're taking care of themselves, so at that point they've grown up so fast. Their mentality is grown. So I believe that being present in your child's life and taking that time out with them, it plays a big part in how they're influenced and where their innocence goes, because a child raising themselves, their innocence is taken from them. They had to grow up too fast. So I believe just making that time no matter what and letting your kid know that you're present, you're there, plays a big part.
I like that. Anybody else?
I don't have kids, so I would say always the village, be a part of the village. I am, because I'm a godparent. I'm a TT. I'm a whole bunch of things. So your resources is a big part. Like Quintá said, she worked 12-hour days. So if there's a village, people in her village that when her kids were younger, that she could reach out to, then that's what you have to do as a parent. But also being selective about who's in your village, because you don't want the wrong people influencing, your kids when you're trying to teach them and guide them in the right way.
Okay.
I just believe that I got to make it intentional. I have to want to prioritize my child and give the time that she needs. I have to want to be there. And I'm learning that now. I didn't always have that, right? I would come home, right, and sit on my game and play it multiple times in the hours of the day. But I didn't understand that my child needed me there. My child needed me to spend some quality time with her. right? Until now, where I see that you don't know how much of time that you have, especially in this world we live in now.
Right.
So you have to make every opportunity meaningful. And that's what I truly believe. Growing up in my household, we ate together. We sat at the table together and we ate together. Even if it was a movie on, if we didn't have movies on, you know, my mom makes some great food, but
Okay.
Yes, she does. I agree to that.
and so just that right there, I remember that because that was something important to me where we actually spent time. We played Monopoly together. We played like games together. They dislike me till this day about Monopoly, but we did all these things together and I seen that it was very important for me. Right. So I have to take that same thing and put it into my daughter where I have to take every opportunity I have because I don't know how long I will have those opportunities. So, yeah, I believe that we need to have that balance in our lives. Leave work and come home and be at home.
I like how you said, you know, you make it intentional. I do believe that whatever we love, we make time for. So whatever gets the most of our attention, you might love it too much.
But that's what Jonathan McReynolds said. He said, I find, what did he say?
Make room.
Yes, that's it. That's the song.
Uh-huh.
But I find places to put what's important to me.
Right.
I make room for it. I prioritize it in my life. So if it's important to me, then I got to prioritize it. So if my
Right.
child is important to me, then I have to prioritize her time because it's important to her and me. So
That's just like that Indominio song, Priority. Whatever you spend the most time with. Go ahead, Shanice.
Hershey's. Sorry. Jackie
Not
said
Hershey.
Hershey's. It caught me off guard. Okay. So from my experience, how to balance the work and then also quality time with my child is time management. So in the Bible, like in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3 tells us that there's a time for everything. And so even though we sometimes have to bring work home or you have work on the brain, we have to know how to efficiently spend our time. So it also goes with what Zay said about knowing how to disconnect. And so you have to disconnect from work and detach so that the work isn't on your brain. And that way you could or can effectively give that quality time. Because if you have other stuff on your brain or you're thinking about other things, then it's no longer quality time. You're just spending time.
Right.
So
I like that. How you just spending time. You're not really here. You're not even
there's
a
no
present
substance
parent.
to it, you know?
Yeah. There's no fruit. Like, what are you doing? You
You have
just
to be
here on your
present,
phone.
not just
Yeah.
in the presence.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're just around, just like you babysitting, but not really watching
not
me.
exist.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
Kayla?
I think with like work-life balance, it's been said, it goes back to your priorities and like blocking out time or putting my time where it's most important to me. I only get one chance to parent my kid. And so while work may be pressing or I may have school deadlines or, you know, any other things, I think I have to set myself aside and set what I want to do aside in lieu of what I need to do. And so you determine what your needs and wants are based on whatever your priorities are. So my needs are to make sure that I'm raising a balanced and healthy kid, and everything else comes second to that. And so still being responsible and doing my work when I'm supposed to, but making sure that I put time in my schedule to take care of my kid's needs, make sure that she's heard, make sure that my family is taken care of, that my relationship is taken care of.
Right.
All of that just goes on scheduling. Somebody said, you know, we all have the same amount of time in a day as like Bill Gates or Oprah. And so if they can do what they do, then who am I to say that like I don't have enough time to get things done? I think it's just a matter of what am I willing to sacrifice of myself to get the results that I want to see in my family.
Absolutely. I like how they break that down. And you got 24 hours in a day, you know? So you just got to choose them wisely. Choose how you're going to spend them. So it's a schedule. Go by your schedule. Don't feel bad about a schedule. He was saying as far as Ecclesiastes 3 and there's a time for all things, that just takes me back to the teachings of Jesus as far as innocence goes. And I feel like he defined innocence in such a way that it kind of just sums it all up for us as adults. And how would you guys define Jesus' teaching about becoming like little children in order to see the kingdom of heaven relate to the topic that we're talking about today?
I think that comes from, I'm a speaker about humility and obedience. Also true, because Jesus said that we have to become like children to even enter the kingdom of heaven, right? So that means no matter how old we get in age, in spirit, we have to stay humble. We have to stay obedient, right? We have to be truthful, and we have to maintain our spirit. And no matter what happens, we still got to acknowledge God, and we got to let him direct our paths. That's kind of what a parent does, right? Kind of like you kid got to do that part, kind of what mom and daddy say, right? Because, I mean, we can say no, we can have conversations, right? But at the end of the day, we still got to do what mommy and daddy say, right? We just got some type of understanding. And that's what the Bible said. And all I get, and we to get understanding, right? So that's kind of how we have to stay along the line. That's why I always tell people, even though I'm 25, spiritually, I'm going to always be probably 12 or 13, somewhere up in there, because I don't want to miss the cutoff age, to make it in the heaven, so that's the good thing about, serving God. Our age and numbers don't matter, right? God could care less about the number. Matter of fact, as of today, I don't even got no more birthdays, right? Because it don't even matter how many birthdays roll around, right? Every day is a gift. Every moment of breath of life is a blessing. So
it's a birthday,
right? So I'm 25 every day at this point, So, but we have to stay humble.
Okay, Peter Pan.
Thank you. All right. I bet you Peter Pan made it to heaven because he stayed like a child the whole time.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka.
Whoa. I'm a boy.
Willy Wonka too. The chocolate factory probably up in heaven waiting on me too. I'm just saying.
Hey, yes, ma'am.
Don't talk about right there.
She's just trying to get that Hershey's.
That's it right there. Don't forget.
Amen.
Donation. But we have to stay humble. We have to stay in spirit and truth. And we have to remember that, God is our Father. Jesus is our intercessor. So at the end of the day, we still got to follow protocol. We got to follow chain of command, but we have to stay obedient. So this is why we have to keep that word hid in our heart. Kind of remind me, that's how kids, we want to please our parents, so we remember what they say do. Right. So I have to remember the scriptures and remember the words. And I have to remember what the Lord say, because then that way I can stay low. I can stay humble. I can stay open to being taught and corrected. I can repent. If I get rebuked, then I know how to take it. So I think that's the part, to me, of that part right there.
Yeah, I agree with Jackie, and the humbleness and the obedience. And then I believe too, as a child, you're more open and you're eager for learning things that you don't know, because you haven't been tainted by the morals and the values of the world yet, or set in your ways as most of us adults are. When we get up in our older age, we just get kind of set. I believe that, children, they're moldable because of their innocence. They don't know any wrong until they're introduced to it, by learning from outer experiences or being introduced to it from outer experiences or influences at home. Also, as adults, I believe that we have to go back to that stage of being unlearned so that we can learn the teachings of Jesus. I believe as a kid, you're moldable, you're teachable, and you're willing to learn, so that we have to, as adults, get back to that place.
Okay. Anybody else?
I mean, as a kid in learning, you don't have I know it attitude, right?
Right.
With Jesus, the reason why he said come as a child is because they're humble, they're open, and they're like sponges. You can play Mozart's on your stomach or whatever if you're pregnant, and the child will come out smart, even though that's just like a thing that people say. But I believe that kids are just like a sponge. I believe what everybody just said, because not to revert back to the same answers that they gave, but children just sit and listen. They want to learn. just knowing this for myself and watching my child, she loves to learn new things. She gets excited about it. And that's how I feel like Jesus wants us to get excited about what he's teaching, to get excited about what he's given to us to learn.
Come on and preach now.
So I feel like that's what it is, you know, and that's the reason why Jesus wants us to come as because they're
right. Mr. Preacher Man. All right. Who next? Don't jump in all at one time.
I'm jumping. I believe.
Okay.
I believe that the two relate in regards to how Jesus was trying to teach his disciples and how I'm trying to teach my child that one needs to be unpretentious in regards to how it defines as not trying to impress others and being modest. So it's not about what others are doing or what they have to say that matters, but instead what is the type of person I'm striving to be, or how does God see me? And so being humble and modest just speaks to a person's character. Like I said before, with how I defined innocence, it's a moral character. And like Matthew 5:3 says, we have to be poor in spirit. We have to be in a humble place in order to see
Gotcha.
heaven. So if I'm not in a humble place, then how can I see?
You right, girl. You better say that. Yes, you recognize that you need help. You recognize, just like a child, if they know they can't do something, they'll ask for help. They're like, okay, I can't do this. That's how we got to be with the Lord. You know, Lord, I can't do this by myself. You're going to help me. Kayla?
Yeah, I think being like little children forces us to be humble or to be teachable. I think kids inherently just trust what's told to them at face value. And I think in the same way that like a parent or an educator or a village or, you know, family member wouldn't turn away a kid if they're asking questions, I think kids don't think to like not ask questions. Everything is just like, why? Or, you know, what is this? And I think we have to take the same approach when we're seeking our relationship with Jesus or trying to get into the kingdom, is just like, how can I do what you're doing? What can I do? My daughter often says, like, I want to be a grown up like you, you know, and I'm like, well, comes with a lot, but maintaining my humility and my ability to be teachable or to hear the opinions of other people in order to get to heaven, and encouraging like her excitement in the world is the same excitement that I need to foster for myself in Jesus, of like, how can I build a relationship? How can I grow up in you, but in a way that like I still remain humble and pure and like without influence of the world.
I like that, because that takes me back to the scripture in the story of Jesus. He got left behind and he was in the synagogues sitting and asking questions as a child. And like you said, it just goes back to children are open. They like to ask questions. They want to know. And I feel like that's the part as adults in the body of Christ that we have to get back to, and not being afraid to ask those questions. Yeah. So that just takes me to my next question and final question, as you know, the preservation, and I know we've talked on it a little bit and we've touched on it here and there, but how can we as parents and educators still, you know, try to preserve that and put into it and try to build a child up, even if they don't, you know, come from the background that a 2-parent home, or maybe they're in a single parent home, or parents are divorced, or, you know, whatever, you know, how can we pour into them?
I say we should always, like you said, we touched on working as a team, right? It's that communication and that collaborative effort, recognizing that there is an issue. I feel like a lot of times the educators should have to initiate, because I'm sure parents can see where there's a problem with their own child, right? But sometimes, remember we said it's so common. So that we have people still leaving kids in hot cars.
Exactly.
You know, so I'm going to put it right thing. And so it's ultimately crazy to me. However, I still believe in the communication. I remember when I taught kindergarten, we used to do the notebooks, and I used to send a notebook home. Mom had to read it, send it right back to me. And that's how I kept the communication open. So I can know what mom is teaching at home. She can know what I'm teaching at school. consistency is the key.
Right.
Right. And so statistics say it takes us to do something 3 times or more before it becomes a habit.
Exactly.
Therefore, I feel like if we consistently do this thing, but a lot of times as educators, we're paid to consistently do it. Parents is kind of
Exactly.
optional for that. So if they choose not to do it, then the ball gets dropped. So I'm gonna stick with it needs to be a collaborative effort, effective, good, clear, concise communication, lots of
Right.
prayer, right? And
Amen.
and just being hopeful.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Jackie on that. Lots of prayer. Prayer does work and it does help to preserve and to protect our innocence of our children. And just as a parent, I feel like I could protect my child by, knowing and being aware of what they're taking in and just instilling in them the morals and values of life, and teaching my child right from wrong and how to apply that in their life and just to be independent and followers, but leaders. A lot of kids these days, they're so immune to the peer pressures of the world and being pressured by friends and what they're doing. So just instilling in them being a leader and not a follower. And as an educator, realizing that not everyone has the same morals and values as, not everybody is getting that same teaching that I'm getting. Not everybody has the same upbringing that I have, but still being able to teach my students right from wrong and leading by example, letting them see if you do this, this is what the outcome can be, just being that example for them and getting to know them, learning their behaviors, learning their households, learning who they are and where they come from, it helps to know them. It helps to grow a relationship with them so that you are able to have that type of relationship. Well, they will be like, oh, hey, miss, I learned this from you, or, because you showed me this, I want to do better, or I learned from my mistakes, because I get that a lot, dealing with my students and when I had them in-house, because of my life experiences, I was able to kind of help them and share some things like, hey, look, this is what I went through when I was younger, but look at me now. So you don't have to stay on that path. You can learn from your mistakes and things can be better in your life. Like you don't have to continue down that path that you're going. You can be better.
I like that.
There was a saying that it said that a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from somebody else's mistakes. And just by hearing what Quintá said, I was just thinking about that, and that popped into my mind. Where by protecting my child, I can give my child everything that I know to be right, and hopefully, by me giving my child everything that I know to be right, that they go out and when I give them the morals and the values that we uphold in the family, hopefully they take it with them into their family whenever they get a family. I don't believe that I can protect them, but I believe that I can give them the knowledge to help them in learning what protection is, if you get what I mean.
Absolutely.
Like,
giving them the tools.
Yes, the tools and the equipment to do what they need to do, just like God does for us. Just like God does for the woman of God, my pastor, where she gives us equipment that God has given her to give to us, right? And to equip us to go out into the world and do what we need to do, right? The protection is God, but we're just giving the information to you so that you can follow the directions, hopefully, that I gave you, but that's what I believe.
I like that. That definitely ties it all in.
And then also, it does take a village, like Jackie said, because there's a lot of things that I don't know that somebody else might know, right? My daughter, she goes to Taekwondo and she learns all these movements. She learns what this means. She learns what that means. I can't teach her that because I don't know that, right?
Exactly.
But it's all based on how she puts it to use. My wife, she teaches her things that I don't know, where she comes and tells me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's up. Where, like I said, it does take a village. So I agree with Jackie on that.
Yeah, that village really helps. Any one of you.
Okay. So when I hear or think about the word preserve, it means that you're trying to maintain the state that they're already in. So as an educator, I don't believe that I set out to preserve the innocence of a child per se, but I'm there to assist in nurturing them as they grow. because they will have one way, maybe in my classroom or at school, and then they leave and go into different environments. So
Exactly.
it's like not my job in a way to maintain their innocence, but to assist them and guiding them so that way when they are out and about, they can think on the things that we talked about before. And so as a parent, one has to be aware and use wisdom when it comes to protecting and preserving their child's innocence. As a parent, I can also do my best to teach my child what is right from what is wrong. When they have questions, I can listen to them and try not to just project like what I've been through, my opinions, but to also educate and to explain or discuss the consequences of actions, whether they may be good or bad, in a way that they may understand. And it goes back to the social media question and the influence that it has. So I can't just block a content or tell my kid that, no, you can't watch that, but let them know why. Maybe what they're seeing is not something that we morally see as right. And so I also have to remember that not everyone has the same morals and values. So it goes back to innocence starting at home, and that it is the influence of the parent that matters most. And I can see why some parents may want to, including myself, want to homeschool their child because of they want to preserve their morals or their innocence of the child that they have instilled in them.
Okay, I like that answer because they're not going to be innocent forever. We understand that. And we know that with a child, they have to grow up. They have to know things. That goes back to what Jackie said, communication. And then that's something you just want to continue to pour into them, is communicating with them and giving them the tools and letting them know, hey, like, yeah, you can do that. You can jump off this bridge. And do you see that pavement down there? You can either get hurt or you can die, or who knows, maybe all your bones will break and you'll still live. But I'm telling you right now, don't jump off that bridge. So
Don't be no motivational speaker, okay?
yeah, I'm not one. I leave that to Jackie.
I think you did a great job explaining that thoroughly.
Yeah.
Kayla.
Similar to what Shanice said, I don't feel like it's a responsibility of an educator to maintain my kids' innocence. I think having communication with the educators are important. And kids get influenced by like friends and teachers, sports coaches, social media, church leadership, kids at the store. Like there are just so many places where they're influenced. So taking time to understand what they're being exposed to, understand the curriculum that they're learning, like with sports, knowing what are the things that you're teaching, am I allowed to be there? And then deciding what are things that I'm comfortable with, because my convictions and my morals may be different than those of the educators or those in the school district or whatever. And so making a concerted effort to guard her innocence and what I'm comfortable with her understanding or knowing while she still exists as part of this world. Also at work, if there are parents or families that don't understand or haven't been taught how to guard their kids' innocence, then it's my responsibility to educate and then empower parents to take an active role in their kids' lives. And so if you weren't given that example or you haven't seen it before, then can I give you a second point of reference to follow either now or later? You know, it's difficult to acknowledge that things may not be perfect. And so while I don't expect for anybody to make immediate changes, I do hope that the information or the resources that I provide allows them to at least do some self-reflection and adjust in a way that aligns with their morals and their convictions and the things that they believe are best. But I think if they've never seen it, then how can they teach it? And so just being open to, here's how I teach, here's how someone else may teach, here's how somebody else may do this, and then allowing them the time and space to be able to make those changes for what they feel is best in their family unit.
Absolutely. I know you stated that recently you took out your child from, a certain institute because of their particular beliefs, right?
Yeah, I think I've always made it a point to understand the curriculum and the things that she's being taught. And so when we were notified that the curriculum was changing and it's always presented so nicely of we've invested in this great thing and, we're so excited
Right.
and, we're getting new books and we're going to have a whole new library. I felt like it was my job to then go through the book list. If they're going to give me the resource, then I might as well go through and see what books are you trying to teach my kid? What are you, what are you shifting the curriculum? And then making a conscious choice of that no longer aligns with my belief system or what I believe she should be learning at her age.
Exactly.
And then pulling her from that school and saying, you know what, we're going to shift the way that our life looks. And we're going to go from me working full time and you being in a school program full time to me homeschooling full time until we found a program that aligns with our value system. And we're going to allow her to go. And if that no longer aligns with us, and at the end of the year, then we'll change and we'll shift to a new thing. But I think making a conscious choice of what am I allowing my kid to consume and what influence am I allowing the adults in her life to have over her. And even if the teachers and I align on a lot of beliefs, if there's a school system pushing a particular curriculum, then there's nothing that, they may be able to do. If a teacher's off work and an assistant teacher steps in, I can't protect her if I'm not making a conscious, if I'm making a conscious decision to allow her to stay in her school, then I'm passively allowing her to consume the information that they're letting me know that they're teaching.
Exactly. You knowing it, you're aware of it, and you do nothing about it, basically. Can't let nobody come on your territory and change your belief. I thank you guys for joining me on today, though. Did anybody else have any comments or any questions?
I just want to say one thing before I go. I was listening to Kayla speak, and it just came to me. There are so many people who did not finish high school and still were successful in life. Education is important, but spiritual edification is even more important because this is a temporary home. We're not going to be here forever. This is a journey to get to where we're going to be forever, for eternity. So I have learned not to put so much into education, worldly education, because it only going to take you so far, right? I haven't seen anybody use 10 degrees to preserve their life or anything else along with it. But I've seen people read the Bible and live it, and they got them over through a whole lot of storms, right? Troubled water, drowning bridges, sinking sand, all of that. So I'm not a parent, right? But I will say, and I will speak to, knowledge is power. But the right knowledge is even more powerful, right? So I just wanted to say that to the parents, because I believe homeschooling is a great thing, because you control what you're feeding the brain. That's it.
Exactly.
So then you know that your child can walk the way that it should, because you know what you fed it. Going back to we are what we eat.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that I like how you put that, because that's what I was thinking too when she was talking about that. Like, if you are aware of what's going in your child's mouth, and if it's not okay with you, if it's not aligning with you, let's remove it. Let's figure something out. Let's change some things around, and let's rearrange some things. So I commend you for that. A lot of parents don't think that that's important, but that's definitely important. Did anybody else have any questions or any comments before we wrap this up?
Yes, thank you for having me. Had a good time.
All right. I had a great time with everybody. I appreciate you guys for joining me. I appreciate you guys giving me your time, and joining me on our first episode. Hopefully many more. this wraps this up, guys. Thank you for joining us. Panelist 1 was Jackie. Panelist 2 was Quintá. Panelist 3 was Shanice. Panelist 4 was Zay. And panelist 5 was Kayla. If you guys have any questions for them or any comments, feel free to send us a message or reach out on social media. And just thank you guys for listening and continue to download and subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Lapse of Time. Have a great day.